Let's see. I think we should be live. I'm just double checking on the Utes. Come on. /5. We are cool. All right, pop out chat. Hey, everybody, welcome to this week's What the Heck. We have Frederick Foxtrot. And let me just double check. Oh, cool. Yeah, we're good. We are gonna do some quick intros and then probably do like a rig rundown and go through Frederick's like pretty advanced rig. I want to say like there's a lot going on and it's pretty cool. So let's get to it. Who are you and what did I write down? What is the oldest module in your case?
Well, I don't know. Well, first of all, I'm Frederick Foxtrot. I'm a Long Island, Brooklyn-based, I'd say multi-instrumentalist, yes. I mean, I do a lot of modular synthesis is probably my primary instrument at the moment, but I come from guitar. And I think initially coming into modular was to how to kind of, I think a lot of people do this, how to merge these different worlds of acoustic and electric instrumentation that the stage is mostly known for, or often known for, and then kind of merging it with this new strange technology. You know? So that was my initial thing. I'm kind of really sitting on electric, like a modular music right now. So it's pretty much what I do. And then the oldest module I have is that I own is probably the Mod 32 is the first one. It was the first semi-modular thing I got. And that I wanted to know if that was something, you know, I think it's a really great thing to buy to see if it's something you're interested in and understanding what's happening beneath the faceplate of your synthesizer as far as ring goes. When that happened, I just got hooked on it. So then I immediately went out and filled the rest of the case. So, but as far as the next, I would say probably the Phonogene. The Phonogene and Mavs were probably my second two modules that I got.
Phonogene and Maths. That makes sense.
Which
those are good modules though.
If you know, like Phonogene is kind of like I'm stuck in Phonogene when they've obviously gone it with Morphogene and then taken some of those things and made Mimeophone, which I also have. But but Phonogene is just a really bare bones. You got 2 seconds of high quality, 18 seconds of really degraded sample, you know, as far as public sample you can get out of it.
Yeah.
And it's not always very, it doesn't do what you say all the time. It doesn't feel like it's doing what, so but that's something you have to get through. But I almost take that hardship as that constraint as a creative.
Yeah, you kind of learn the flavor of like just how to work, how to let that module guide you into doing what you want.
Because that's one thing. I mean, eventually I learned. People always say that, what's the difference between playing in a band and then or playing with other people and then playing with modular, or the comment that modular is very like heartless or soulless because of its electronic nature. And modular, because of a variety of reasons, I don't find that to be the case at all. I find it to be this, you're playing a duet in a way, you know? And I think in no more strong terms is that with the Phonogene sometimes. So that's how I learned about that kind of duet. You know, that's how I conceptualized it initially, was through that. It only became more pronounced as I continued on.
I mean, that's how I actually got addicted, was not necessarily with modular, but like some of the synths I got, like the soft pop was one of the first, like, I want to say modular things I had. It's not my first module. We'll come back around to that, but it's like something that I realized I'm no longer like playing an instrument. I'm like working with an instrument. Like it's a fellow collaborator in this process.
And it's not always on time. I mean, you know, like especially if you're using a combination of like MIDI and CV, like that like language. Sometimes it's you little swing in there, and you're like, okay.
Sometimes you get a little swing. Sometimes it skips a clock beat, right? Like, and you just, you know, you learn to work with it. Sometimes that works out really well.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I want to say one thing.
Oh,
Oh,
go
sorry,
ahead.
go on. No, I just wanted to say that I don't have my eyes on the chat of YouTube, so if any questions are being asked or something like that, I don't have eyes on it. And if you wanted to interrupt me at any time, that'd be fine. I'm not worried about that.
All right, all right. I will relay all of the chat comments, or at least the questions and compliments, I suppose. Um, what else is there? Just questions, compliments, and side chatter. Uh, I'm Hex7, and my oldest module is, I guess there's one in Eurorack and one in Cosmo format. The Cosmo format one is the MS20. Well, it's the Look Mum No Computer Performance Filter, which is an MS20 based filter, and it's 20 centimeters by 20 centimeters. That was the first module I put together. That was the first module I owned. And as you can imagine, if you just have a filter module and no power supply, no other modules, it doesn't do a lot. So I kept going. But my oldest Eurorack was maths. Somebody made like a Eurorack adapter for Cosmo behind me, and the first thing I got was maths because I would love to have some some ability for a function generator, some CV manipulation. So maths was a go-to, and it's still in it's actually moved over into that rack because I hardly use it in this rack once I built some other Cosmo modules. But yeah, I have no idea what the oldest module is by release date.
Right. Yeah, that's a whole different thing.
Yeah, so
Mouse is
we'll
probably
figure that out
pretty
another
good
day.
there though.
Yeah, yeah. Mass is up there. I think my semi modulars, like if you count like the DFAM, actually, I'm pretty sure Mass is older than DFAM. My MS-10 is definitely the oldest semi, like 1978
I'm
or
gonna turn off
something.
this. I have something projecting behind me, and it's copyright free, but I'm just gonna turn it off just in case. So.
Oh, okay. I think yeah. All right, I'm gonna pass on some feedback from Egon. It sounds like Egon feels that modular music is electronic, and therefore it doesn't have like any emotion in it. So when they listen to it, it makes them feel sad. So all of our music makes Egon sad, and we should keep making music. At least somebody feels something.
That's good.
I mean, that was largely a joke.
Right. Yeah. Soulless.
I was like, when Egan and I were playing at DEF CON, there was no frowns.
Right. I mean, I think I just always, I think it's a '90s thing. I think there was this interesting division between people who like rock music and people who are into either like electronic music or like love the Train Spotting soundtrack or something like that.
Yeah.
And there was this kind of thing where in rock music, especially, I don't know if there's a sensitivity because of its current heyday that it was experiencing, but I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, I don't like electronic music. It's all pre everything. There's no heart in it. There's no soul in it. And it's something that in the '90s, I was always loved kind of both. And it was, I always have to like kind of not add my 2 cents into that discussion, I guess. Thanks.
All right. Yeah. Like, I mean, that, I think there's just like, when you listen to a good rock track, like I've been listening to a lot of like Elvis recently.
Okay.
And like, you know, Jack White and some blues and like that kind of stuff, as well as a lot of like really heavy industrial music. Like, and then and in this case, I've been listening like on long drives because I've been having to make a lot of drives around. So I have time to actually like sort of focus like on the
Listen.
music and like listen to what they're doing and like what keeps this interesting. And I wouldn't say like one makes me feel like different emotions or anything. Like they both have so much emotion to them. But I did notice like the one of the complaints that people often mention, especially like more classically trained artists, is that electronic music doesn't have as much oh geez, what's that term for, like essentially volume control. um like when you're playing drums a little
Yeah,
softer or
yeah.
loud, like harder. There's a term for that.
Velocity. No.
Velocity is the electronic word for it, but that's not.
Yeah, I know what you're
um,
talking about. Yes.
uh, dynamics,
Dynamics.
yeah. And yeah, thanks, Egon.
I think that's yeah. I think that's true. I think that like in some ways when people are doing, let's say like a kick, right? And they always just have it at 127. You know, like the velocity is always just at the limit, and that lack of, and that's, I mean, some people might like that. I think some songs would be well served to actually go into whatever sequencer you're using and actually mess with the velocity to get that distinction, which I think is a good, it's
Yeah,
a
and I
good
would say
comment.
we're in an era where that's not like necessarily true anymore, like that dynamics control, because you can do so. There's lots of like humanizing
Yeah.
things in sequencers. There's the ability to control individual steps if you're programming things in. There's the ability to use interesting interfaces. Like modular is nice because you can pretty much like design your human computer, like interface, right? Like you can use a theremin, like the dope for theremin module, to get like some really great dynamics, and you can like do a lot of stuff that just is so easy now with the right equipment. So
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Especially with a
but
lot of the
like but
touchpads
like
and stuff like
listening to the
that.
older stuff, there was really clear like if you like listen to like early Nine Inch Nails, like the drums like like it's the same drum every time, right? Like it's electronic, it's gonna be repeatable. Versus like the Elvis stuff, like sometimes they drift on speeds and all of that. So
Yeah, no, I completely agree. But um, yeah, and pardon me if you hear a child scream in the background. I'm not killing anybody. I was gonna mention real quick about you mentioned MADS, and one
yeah,
of the reasons why MADS sticks around so much is because obviously of its multifunction. And I was trying to think about something why I'm so attracted to something like MADS, but like distings and things like that, those kinds of multi effects, omnibus, everything things I tend to stay away from. And I recently my friend of mine let me borrow their Euro Bureau, and which is it's a similar thing. If you
yeah,
you can put it in your rack or you can have it in its own case. And I was, and this person's like just starting in modular, and they got this, and I was like, that's a lot. That's a super menu divey thing to like try to create one module. You have to. It's going to take you 15 minutes to create the module you want. It's not something you're doing on the fly kind of thing. It's just a
yeah,
stopgap. And while I still and whereas like with MAVs, I realized I was making ADSRs with my MAVs before I knew what ADSRs were.
yeah,
Like I was like, oh, I'm not getting the ability to have the separation between notes. And I was like, oh, I think I can do this with MADS. And then I realized there was a whole
right.
function that was, so in some ways, MADS was also a teacher for me, and in a way that maybe Europe could too. And by the way, I just want to say that after taking a long time to kind of really deep dive into it, the sound quality is incredible, and it actually is very interesting. You can have like a 100 module full, experience. It just takes a little while to get it together, and the more you use it, the faster you go. So I actually do like it. I was really surprised at how much I ended up liking the Euro Bureau. But there is a distinction between these things like this and like the distings and other modules which have that stopgap, all you can do anything. And then something like MAVs, which is more immediate and you know what you're kind of doing.
And maths took me a long time to figure out, but I think one of the things that's sort of interesting to me about like the Eurobaro is like that seems like something that's perfect for somebody who already has a really solid understanding of like all of
Oh
the
yeah.
things that go into making a synth voice, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you understand the fundamentals, the
Euro Bureau, yeah. The
Euro
Zoya Euro Bureau. It's
the
Empress
Zoya Euro
Effects.
Bureau is like something you could get if you're making like a little portable case and you know what you're doing, right? Like it seems perfect for
If
that.
you're
for like
traveling.
somebody who's a beginner. Like maths even was hard to me as a beginner. Like I think the modules that are coming out sort of like we saw a bunch pop up last year between the like East Beast and the West Pest and the oh shoot, what's the name of the Moog one that's really cool? Anyway, these like sort of all in one little mini semi modulars are like a really good way to like let someone like learn synthesis
Yeah.
with training wheels, right? Like, and then the mass, you put that on there and they won't touch mass very long. And then they'll be like, oh, someone told me there's a thing called portamento that sounds cool, or glide or whatever. I guess I could use mass for that. And then like you start like figuring out like mass is my testing ground for what testing ground for modules. Like it's in this in yeah, it's in that case right now, and right now it's primarily like combining signals. And I was like, okay, well I'm only using mass for this and it's pretty permanently patched like that, so why don't I just get like a dedicated module to add some like a 3x MIA that just like adds CV signals and does exactly what I'm like taking up mass with. So like I wonder what it'll do next. That's like my prototyping for. And yeah, Forestine, the Mavis is the one I was thinking of, the Moog Mavis.
Yeah, yeah, that just came out. It has like I think it has the Mother 32 sequencer on
Yeah,
it, and then
yeah. It's got a little sequencer. It's a nice filter, and I think a wave folder. I think it's a pretty nice little module for the price. So
yeah. I've been like I've not been shopping, so I have not been shopping of late. So I didn't even though that's something I would probably look into, but it's not.
I mean, those modules don't really appeal to me at this point because I'm looking more for like
Sure,
specific functions
sure.
because I've already got like Anyway, all right, let's do. We could talk all day around stuff, but like, you want to do a rig rundown?
Sure.
Does just would chat like to see a rig rundown, or we could just like keep rambling if that's what you prefer. Let's see. Let's make sure I didn't miss anything. Egon said, "Velocity at 127 is a very MIDI/DAW way to say maximum."
Okay, I'll take that.
And we love you, Frederick.
Let's just do this real quick. Go to
Okay.
Not
Do you want me to turn on your phone?
Oops. Yeah, go ahead and turn it on, and I'll just hold it. I won't talk, but so first I'm going to do just my modules. I think I'll start there. But I kind
of modules first. All right, I'll make that big. Or let's see, how do I do this? Sorry, everybody, for all the jumping around camera stuff. Let's do that first.
Yeah, we'll do modules first, and then I'll kind of do I'll kind of go out of 30,000 foot view. I'll kind of come back. All right, so one of the things that you'll notice is that I have the 3 Moog Skiff racks, which is something I kind of committed to early on aesthetically. Ideally, in my mind, I wanted to have the Mother 32, the DFAM, and then the Subharmonicon, as that will be my 3 cases, and that was going to be my space max for, like, I was going to give that's my limitation for as many modules as I can have at any one time, because other than that, then I'm probably buying too many or something, or gonna, I know that was just like a limit I gave myself for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So that's what I have is that right now I just have the Mother 32 and the DFAM, which the Mother 32 I love. I know it pretty much inside and out. The DFAM, I've had it for a year now, and I'm still really learning on it. I still look at players like Wokas Messiah and others who are so prolific on the DFAM. I think Forestine uses it, and I'm not, I'm still getting it. I think the idea is I have to use it more, and it's through use that you become bad at it. And I think, but because it's not something you know a lot, it's something that you're hesitant to like perform with in public. So, yeah, I'm starting to use this as like forcing myself to use it more. And I played a show last night, and I had a really great time with it. So, I resonated the DFAM through rings, and then used my octopus as a to kind of control the parameters of rings. And I actually could take, I took the octopus, which has a 9 volt just has 9 volts, and I put it into the scales, which then quantize the signal that I was coming from the octopus, and then I took the quantized signal from scales and put it into the volt per octave, which was then kind of affecting the how it was the DFAM was being resonated, its pitch. And then I had another parameter, the structure, which is kind of harmonics, having that being controlled by also the octopus. But anyways, so this is something that I wanted each of these racks to be able to be taken independently and also have their own character, right? Like this one's going to be a DFAM very with the morphogene, it's and the scales, which is not going to be you're not going to like plug in and actually take a harmony and like actually design a harmony or sequence a harmony or something. I think you can do that, obviously, but I primarily use it for a set it and let it go kind of thing. So primarily this kind of rack is much more chaotic in some ways. You'll notice that I do have quite a lot of the musical instruments. I know some people have strong feelings about musical instruments. The much maligned ring studs is something that I will forever and always still stick by.
Yeah, I don't know why people hate on that. It sounds great.
Yeah, no, it sounds great. I think it's because it's so easy. I mean, it's literally just plug and play.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you then get into the parameters of it and start actually using these CV points, you can do a lot of complicated things that I think people get credit for and whatever. I mean, I think it's something that is so pleasing and so simple that I think sometimes people think it's low-hanging fruit, which I can agree with, but I don't mind eating really good tasting low-hanging fruit. So this was my first rack over here. And it's, starting here, I'm just going to go through. We have the WMD triple bipolar VCA, which I use as my mix out. And I use this as my left in my mixer. So anything coming into these channels will be playing on the left, pan left in some ways. And then just to skip ahead, this is the synthesis technology quad VCA, which I use as my right. And granted, this is just like my typical workflow. I will often have these be center. It's not, they don't have to be left and right, but if I were to do a strong panning, this is the way I would do it. So Erica Sense DSP, which is a really great multi-effects unit for 3 HP, and it can sound really maybe digital sometimes, which is maybe but in a lot of contexts that really doesn't matter. It's a great gap filler, in my view, and it's also stereo, which allows me to continue on with the stereo chain if I'm, oftentimes I'll use a lot of stereo stuff. So the Doper A115, which is just an audio divider. I wasn't really sure what an audio divider was when I got it, but essentially using a square wave oscillator, you can actually, go sub-octave, mids, and then all the way to the original signal. And you can almost turn off the original signal and kind of take apart at the different frequencies the wave. So I use it basically to create, if I wanted to switch off pitch-wise or to create something, sometimes it can get kind of gnarly, and I can.
I mean, that's like a very rudimentary way, but like that's somewhat how like the subharmonicon and things like that work. Like that's how you're getting subharmonics. It's just essentially a bunch of clock dividers.
Yeah, I'm wondering. It says audio divider. I think there has to be some other kind of function you can use with. I'm going to see if there's any kind of triggers or any kind of things like that. And I haven't even in the least actually explored it. I've only as just a pitch, like a pitch oscillations going in. So other than that, I haven't used it for anything else. And that's one of the modules, even though I've had it for many, many years, I would probably like to start seeing if it does anything else.
Yeah.
So the Rebel Technology Stoicheia is another feature of my play. It's a module that I use a lot. It is a Euclidean rhythm sequencer. Essentially, you put in a regular clock, and you can set how many beats you want to have in your measure, and then how many expression or ping, or I just want to say how many beats you want to actually be expressed. And then you can actually combine different signals and then have the output come out. And it is a really great way to have a lot of people. It's meant for drum use. You're, like maybe take a kick and a snare and put it in there and have these alternating kinds of interesting rhythms. But I use it almost exclusively for modulation, and it's so that the modulation that's happening is actually going in step with, but not in locks. Like it fits within it's going along with the rhythm, but it's not in lockstep with it. Your modulation is happening on up. Does that make sense? I guess what I'm saying is that like I just want my modulation to be actually doing a different kind of rhythmic work than just following whatever the drums are happening in the drums, essentially.
Yeah.
And that's a really great way of doing it. Warps, I'll start with my middle instruments line. Warps is going to be something that I like a lot. I used it a lot more earlier, and I think basically what ended up happening is I turned it to the Parasites firmware, and I haven't really. I almost want to go back to the original because I remember using it so much more when I just had it in the regular firmware. But there is a lot of really cool functions in Parasites, but it's really kind of. I think you have to really get to know it, and I haven't spent the time to get to know Parasites as I should. Getting clouds, everyone knows clouds.
Yeah, I remember you used that a ton when you first after you put that case together. So yeah.
Yeah, I used to use warps all the time, but I just don't use it as much as anymore. I should, I think that happens with people. You come and go, but maybe it'll come back. I still want it. I don't feel like I have any reason to get rid of it. Go on.
No, I wasn't going to say anything. You're good. You're
okay.
good.
Okay. Clouds. I think everyone knows clouds. I mentioned clouds and rings before. Clouds is going to be a really great. I don't know what you call it. It's a granular. I like it, like texture. It's very oriented for like reverb or your delays and things like that. But it's more than that. It's really a texturizer, I'd say, rather than just a simple delay or a reverb.
Yeah.
And a lot of people just like it has some noise to it, and it has some imperfections that I think was addressed in Beads as it was released, which I actually kind of dig the kind of noise that comes along with it. So I don't really feel a need to move it on or to correct it. I'm happy with what I got. Although I would definitely love to play Beads. I know there's a couple other features that are pretty cool. The Pico VCO, this is just has 16 different oscillators, both VCOs and 16 different LFO forms.
Oh wow!
In this one little and a lot of times where I will turn to this because some of my other oscillators just aren't hitting that. The kind of tone or timbre I'm looking for.
I will say, like, of the Pico modules I've used, the Erica Synths ones, they're 3 HP, so that like makes people a little squeamish.
Yeah,
because it's an odd number, but like I find the spacing of them, like if you have something that you're going to be interacting with while you're playing, like 3 is pretty perfect in a pair of those, and then you have 6. So like they're great. Yeah.
I was afraid of these little pots that would you touch them and they can go wildly out of tune and stuff like that. I've never really had an issue with that. I can even touch it right now, and I'm really not even. It's got great knob stay. If that makes sense. They thought of that.
They're pretty stiff. Yeah, they're good.
Rings is a resonator. Plots is a newer kind of updated version of Beads. Yeah, Beads. Another thing I love as well. It also it's something that I'm
braids, new version of
braids. Thank you, braids. A new version of braids. I don't know if there's a lot. I've used braids before, and that had a menu that you had to kind of scroll through to get your different waveforms, and it. So I've used both. I didn't really. I'm not sure exactly. I think that their interface on this, like they really wanted to simplify it, and so. I like them both. I might actually own, if I had my world, I might actually own both. I don't necessarily think of one as necessarily supplanting the other necessarily, but I know that.
I agree. I think they're both really good. I've listened to many, I've watched all of the tutorials and many demos on both braids and plots, and I do really want a braids because I actually have a like Cosmo adapter for braids randomly. So like that one would be just great.
I agree.
Well,
I'm gonna kind of try and speed it up because I don't think we're on today. But like Tides,
yeah.
Tides is a really great module. Not only does it have your LFOs and VCOs, it also you can do chords with it, and you can also do great ADSR, different functionalities in there. So actually, I didn't realize this, but a lot of
What
the functions.
what do you use it for mostly though?
I mostly use it for LFOs in a similar way that aux are related LFOs. You can do a similar thing
yeah.
with Tides. I use it a lot for that kind of stuff.
Oh, cool.
I'm now kind of also looking at it. If I want to add a chord, if I wanted some chords, I can. I'll use it for a chord or something like that. But I'm trying to. This is another module I'm trying to sit with longer because of all my modules on this rack. This is the one I probably use the least. But I just realized how much of a multifunction unit it is. I didn't realize. When you say Tides, that's what it's trying to get across. Is the in the same way as like the oct, that how all of these different LFOs are interrelated. There's a kind of relationship between all these LFOs. There's only 4 of them, and that's like the idea of ebb and flow is something that it's trying to get across. And maybe if I try to like really think with that concept and try to use it for this idea of ebb and flow and like see how I can incorporate that into my play, I think my next step was very basic things like boards, VCOs, and yeah, that's essentially that. So I already explained this. Scales is a sequencer slash, it's a great little sequencer that you can use. Probably one of my favorites that is also in play is the circuit bent VCO synthesis technology. I think it's, I think I said this is AI synthesis. Circuit bent VCO is an awesome thing. Basically, the Texas Instruments Speak and Spell, that chip, that speech, the designer of that chip left the company and asked if he could license it. He did, made a module, and so you can basically take the Speak and Spell voice and mangle it and say what you want to, if you want to say. It fortunately has a foxtrot. It says foxtrot, so it's kind of sometimes fun to throw that in there. But then aside from its speech, it has really, really great wavefolder with different VCOs, VCO A and B that I use a lot. I'd probably say this is my primary VCO. And also with the way that I sequence it, it can have a really choppy. You'll notice in some of my songs, like it really does that really well. So
cool.
Yeah. Wogglebug, great, sample hold, a lot of different LFOs. Maths we've already discussed. As Phonogene we've already discussed. It's a great module. Mimiaphone, kind of comes as the third generation between after you have your Phonogene, your Morphogene, and then they took some of the functionality from Morphogene and put it in Mimiaphone. And I kind of have the beginning and the end of the transformation. And I really love Morphogene. Enthusiastic Electrons turned me onto it, and so I'm really glad for that.
Or the Mimiaphone specifically, not the
the Mimiaphone specifically was what was turned on by
well, yeah, when I eventually get Enthusiastic Electrons to do a rig rundown, it's just going to be like a full frame just on Mimiaphone, and like that's the whole.
Yeah, so like Vocas Messiah to DFAM is Enthusiastic to Mimiaphone in my book.
Yeah.
Like this is the way that the mastery of it. Of course, the Wasp, the Dope for Wasp, which is a great gnarly filter. Initially, when I was thinking about that in the Ikari, I think you had mentioned another filter, but that one you couldn't find it anywhere at the time. It was sold out everywhere, so I got this by chance, and I'm happy I did. While I still would get the other filter as well, I'm really happy with this filter. It has such a unique quality to it, which I always like unique things, like the fact that it has its own character.
Yes, yeah.
The cockpit has it's great for side chaining. One thing with endorphin products that I don't like is the fact of how much they compress the sound. I think it sounds really clean and it sounds really great. I've never had any kind of distortions coming out of endorphins, and it's because they squash the sound a little bit. I mean, by that it means they lower the volume quite a bit.
Yeah, the volume coming out of it is low enough that when I was taking Cosmo, like when I went to did a Vegas show, like I swapped that module out, even though it sacrificed some side chaining. I swapped it out just for like something that could pass like the uncompressed volume through. Like,
yeah, and I know that you can turn it up and it goes past a little bit, so it has a little boost. Like if you go past its normal,
yeah,
but it still doesn't do what you're looking for. And I find this problem to be the same with Milky Way as well. This volume has a. I think that's something with endorphins and the kind of music I was talking with Carl X last night, and he mentioned, he was like, well, I think a lot of the users do a lot of techno, and so a lot of that kind of sound really has to be compressed, and it has to be really pristine sounding. So maybe that makes sense. And maybe it's just, when I talked to the guy himself, I emailed via email exchange, and he said, yeah, I just really want everything to sound really good. So they do it for their reasons. But the modules themselves are incredible, and I don't want to get rid of them.
yeah,
I don't feel like I should get rid of them. But it is my only not happy part about it.
I agree. Like it's so close to perfect.
Yeah, exactly. And it does sound good, right? If you actually get it to volume, it does sound amazing.
It does. It sounds great.
So to finish up, I have the filter analog filter 8, which is an amazing filter. As you can see here, there's for any signal you come in, you can get 8 different filter types. You can self-patch. You can self-oscillate for having a great VCO. And when I want to do a really cool, crisp, almost like Tycho or a really crisp, I think Palo Alto is what I'm trying to think of, like the bass lines. If you want to do a really clean, crisp bass line has no real, oddly enough, like very unfiltered kind of bass lines, this is just good for that. If you want to do like your low end bobbling bass lines, strangely enough, the filter 8 is what I usually go to for that. I probably have like 45% of its functionality memorized. Otherwise I usually go to the manual. And then lastly, I just have a mini dual ADSR, which is great because there's actually 4 outputs, and you can use instead of multing your own, and you can also control the logarithmic or exponential kind of closing of the lease and stuff like that, which is I think probably one of the best ADSRs that I played around with, like IntelliGel and other things that have really great ADSRs, but for the cost and the functionality, this thing is really, really great. Dofer is so strange because they put out such great modules that do such simple things, and sometimes we get kind of caught in all these other manufacturers' web of dazzlement, when Dofer really just does it well, So
yeah.
And then of course the Mother 32 and the DFAM. So those are my rigs. Sorry for that lengthy exposition.
Well, I'm going to interrupt before we go away from this. Like, first with Doper, like one of the things that I really like about Doper modules is that outside of wanting to know particular technical specs on like maybe the voltage range that it accepts or something like that, you probably aren't going to have to look at a manual. Like there's not a lot of hidden functionality on most of them. But your comment about the manuals is like, well, looking at your setup, like especially with like mutable instruments stuff that you can install custom firmware on, like how often are you like referencing manuals for some of these?
I would say I probably not often. Okay. I would say for rings now, for mutable instruments, it's definitely parasites. The warps parasites I definitely have to go through, because now instead of before you had basically 9 functions, and then with parasites now you have 9 meta folders, okay, and each one of those have 9 functions. So now you just went from just having 9 functions on the warps to now having 9 times 9. So now you have 81 different now you have 81 different settings for warps that you didn't have before.
Yeah.
And then also these knobs also become different parameters. These are no longer the same parameters. They're much more how to fine tune. So it's like whoever did warps. I know a lot of people know the person's name. I don't have it offhand, but like they really took a lot of time with it. So definitely warps and tides. Like I said earlier, I'm doing that with tides and the digital analog. Other than that, I don't really, because I'm in a mode right now where I'm really all about being productive. I spend a lot of time recording and then mixing, and I don't have enough output that I want. And so now I'm kind of taking inspiration from a lot of my favorite players who just kind of get up there, put something out, and then just let it go and just say goodbye to it. And so that's kind of in where I'm at right now. I just need to get myself in a mindset where I can play and not have to document every great thing I hear just because I hear it's great. I don't need like, okay, go to the DAW and record it. It's a good thing to do if you to get a lot of really great of your own content or production, whatever. As far as like quality, but it's terrible for quantity, and I need to increase that for sure.
That's cool. That's a cool goal. I have similar aspirations for different reasons and different things, but
I mean,
for the most part, I don't have. Yeah.
I'd say eventually I might be able to go back and I'm just like right now it's like I just need to get in the mindset. So it's not like I want to stop doing quality forever. It's just I'm amazed by people who just do it so effortlessly.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Are we gonna switch to the foot cam now?
Yeah, let's switch to the other cam. And I apologize to those watching. It's a narrow band just because that's the way my phone is doing this, but it is the way it is. So so my studio is.
Figure out a good way. There we go. That's the closest.
So the first thing I want to show is as far as what controls everything, it's going to be the BeatStep Pro. BeatStep Pro is going to start and stop my Mother 32, which then serves as the main clock hub of my entire my rack. So so the Mother 32 clocks the BeatStep Pro clocks the Mother 32, which then distributes clock to everything else. At the same time, it's also what actually turns the BeatStep Pro on and off is this that I built by Molten Voltage. It's a kit, and it's just a maybe you can hear that from. So like that.
It's starting and stopping your sequencer, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's all it's doing. Starting, I can set the BPM as well. So I have different presets. If I go 5, that's 120. If I go to 1, that's 95. So I can with my feet, cool. I can do that. And also, what you'll notice is right next to it is a Pigtronics Infinity Looper. So I actually have a guitar through my pedal board, and or I also have all my synthesizers also run through my pedal board as well. So it's all of my rack, all of my mode, a little fatty stage 2 microcord, and then the PSR 540 Yamaha keys. That all goes into a mixer down there. Just a little mixer, which then goes into an AB switcher, and that AB switcher turns on and off with the guitar, and the I can't hear that, but so it's so my synthesizers go, including this is the output for the cockpit too. I actually use comes through here, and I can actually boost it. So I have a boost pedal that, because of the volume problem, I need to be loud. I can just boost it on my feet. But yeah, so the Infinity Looper opens and closes its loop with. So you'll see. And so and then if I want to close it, it waits until the next beat. So it's essentially basically, if anyone who does a lot of looping early on, it's one of the big fears you have is it drifting. Sometimes you would like actually.
Can I interrupt you for a second? Like you're getting a little bit choppy, like your audio is.
Oh, my
your
audio
video's
is
fine. Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
I wonder if it's just a proximity thing. So maybe turn off like the noise and echo cancellation and stuff.
Yeah, it's probably a proximity thing.
Yeah. But at least that's the only thing that I know we can adjust.
Yeah, no. So. Is that done through? My only thing is I'm not sure how.
It's in like the gear
Yeah, I got
settings, audio, video,
Okay.
that kind of stuff.
Got it.
And you could temporarily turn off your video on the rack cam to see if that gives you a little more bandwidth or something. But don't turn the audio off.
No. Well, we're gonna see if this works. I just turned off the cancellation.
Okay.
Am I a little better than I was before?
It's hard to say.
Okay. Well, stop me if I'm not able to be heard.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
So I have where I was at was basically all my synthesizers and my guitar go into an AV box switcher, which then goes through my pedal board. I'm not going to go through these pedals like I did the modules, but I think anyone who's a pedal head will kind of recognize a lot of these. The Microcosm is a great one. The Dark Star Afterneath. Count to 5 is probably one of my favorites. And I have you'll note everyone has this. That's all my extra gear that I have for whether it's pedals or screws and whatnot go in there. But so I switch them out. I kind of like pop these in and out as well. So that I just wanted to kind of show that, because often when I'm doing my best work, I feel like I'm having this going on, but I'll definitely be playing a key synth or a guitar line or something else. The repeats and the looper on the Microcosm is also clocked with the MIDI from the Molten Voltage MIDI floor pedal. So everything is in lockstep, and I can never turn anything on and have it, if it's on loop or if it's on a sequence, to have it go out of step, which was a game changer for my workflow for sure. Is just figuring out how I can clock everything and to get modules or sequencers and pedals that actually took MIDI. Sometimes they cost a little more, and I definitely empathize with that. But as far as like what was enabling me to play, it's a game changer for sure. And I would saving that extra a few dollars to get them, I think is worth it for sure. And then everything goes. Honestly, is I have my drum sections is here, as I have a DSR 670, which is a Dr. Rhythm 670. It's a great turn of the century drum machine. It has all of Roland's old drum kits in it. It has like 121 kits in it. All their 80 log stuff, a lot of Roland stuff in there. And then I have that coming to an AV switcher. And I switch between that drum machine and the drum brute, which I have here.
That's very smart.
Yeah, so I can actually play them at the same time if I want to. If I'm using a hi-hat on my DR 670 that I really like, but I want to use the kick or I want some other quality of the drum brute, I can actually have them play at the same time through that's like a both switch that allows them to play together. And all of these instruments then go into my ZI-10 mixer, which is something that I think is really great for performance, to be able to go to a show and just pop it down and put it in play. And it does really for DAW recording as well. Although in DAW recording, your changes to your EQ does not. This has no effect on your outgoing signal into a DAW. I guess they assume that all that will be done. Go on.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing though. Like mine does that too.
No, I think it is too. I think I was surprised, and I didn't know it. It's oftentimes, and we can move to another topic because this kind of a good segue, but maybe not yet. But like, there's certain things where like had I didn't do that, I wouldn't have spent so much time trying to get the EQ on the board. You know, it's just time suck. You're like trying to EQ everything, and then you're recording something, and you realize that all that work you just did, you have to do in post again, anyways. So it's more like a knowledge thing, and it's a read the manual thing. Although I'm not sure the manual actually explicitly states that. I think that might have been a forum thing I found. I was like, but it's definitely a read the manual moment for me. And I think you used a Zoom 7 or you used a Zoom 12, something like that before. Maybe not now, but you did. I think I was looking to get something like that for more digital, like of using this, you know, going into a PA system is great. But if you're going into a DAW context, I'm thinking maybe another mixer. And I hate to have two mixers. I don't think that's a little overkill, I think. But I think that they might have different contexts in which they excel, you know, a little bit. But,
yeah. I mean, I still use the Zoom L12. That's right there. And I have a Zoom L8 because I like the L12 so much. I got the L8 more for traveling.
Gotcha.
But I hardly use the L8, so I should probably sell that.
I'll say, lastly, I also I have a projector that I project over my play, which is strange to bring up in like a gear thing, but like projectors are cool and should be used, you know. So I think that's pretty much it as far as my rig rundown. I hope I was comprehensive and wasn't too long. But
does anyone have any questions? And you should turn the echo cancellation back on.
Great. Was that pretty murderous? Was it pretty bad? Sorry about that.
It wasn't the worst.
When people say that, it means it was really bad. I'm like, don't even try anymore. Just.
It was like my voice and a little bit of a low pass filter, or maybe high pass or something, and a filter with a little bit of reverb. It was a little weird. All good now, though.
Let's go back to this view. Perfect. Okay. All right.
Okay, so you're not done though. We talked about this briefly before we hit stream, but like, what about Entity Chain? Like, what do you got going on your computer?
Oh yeah, so this is kind of one of the things that I was talking about how things that you don't know just for so long. I actually wanted to make a video about this, and I might just do that. But understanding that those of us who use OBS to live stream and use that as part of our chain, OBS takes, and by the way, there are going to be people here who've known this, and they're going to be like, "What? This guy is completely blown away by something that is so simple," and I understand that, and this is I'm exposing myself as some vulnerability here, but like using VSTs in OBS was something I never knew that you could do, and I always had a really just one of the things I didn't like about live streaming is the difference between what I was hearing out of my headphones and what I would hear in playback. And I understand there's a limitation that we're all experiencing. We're in it together and yada, yada. I get that. But sometimes it was just so different. I was so excited about something that would then I listened to it and it's not the same thing I didn't feel. But then I was just on how to fix this. And it was like, oh, yeah, I put my VST and I was like, what? You can do that? So all my VSTs that I use for mastering in my when I do my mixing and recording, you can call up all those VSTs in OBS as a filter. Okay, so you go into your filters.
Okay, so first of all, I had no idea you could use VSTs in OBS. Like VSTs in a DAW, cool. Like, yeah, that's what I expect. But in OBS, I'm like, oh,
exactly.
Oh.
Exactly, because I mean, I don't do a lot of DAW production. I do zero DAW production. I just do recording, and so I often use a lot of stock things. And it wasn't until I decided I wanted to get some extra VSTs that I even knew what VSTs were. So maybe a lot of other people who know about it maybe are more production oriented in DAW production, but or maybe not. But like I had no idea, and it changed it. And the key to it is a little information I can impart to those who are just finding this out. As far as gain, all gain staging, you gain stage your OBS exactly as you would gain stage your recording. Okay, keeping things down low on the front end, and then you use your OBS VSTs as your mastering plugins.
Like
And
end of chain, like
yes,
compressors,
it's your
whatever.
end
Yeah.
chain. You bring all your volume up. You'll never peak out again. You'll never, all that stuff is completely gone. And while you don't sound exactly as you do, it's not exact. It's 1,000 times better. You sound so much better. You can get an EQ in there and really bring those mids down, or like the 200 down with the muddiness. You can really bring up the, if you think that like your 4,000 EQ needs to pop up, you can do that. And you can do it with the VSTs you already know how to use. So it's not like you have to go and learn some new way on OBS how to fix your sound. You're just doing this like you would in any DAW recording, except for you do it at end of chain. And the volume for me is a big thing, because one of the things with regular OBS is, for me, it's really low. So I have to go into OBS and max everything out into red, even to get the sound I have. And when it sounds good to me, and then I listen to it on a live stream, everything's blown out because I've actually gone beyond, even though in my own ears, it sounds great. And even though I'm actually listening to it with the output of OBS, which I've also started doing, is I no longer listen to my mixer at all. I have my headphones connected to my computer, and I listen to the OBS out, okay? And that way I can actually hear what is going to YouTube or do whatever key stream that, or a key that I'm entering.
Yeah, I mean that's a big problem that I faced. I still listen to my mixer because I tried listening through OBS, and I found that while I actually could get a feel for what the audio is going to sound like, I was missing cues like crazy because there was a bit of
Latency.
lag. Yeah, latency on that computer. So I should try on this computer because that was the last computer. But
Yeah, I
also
don't.
like I've also done the thing where like my first ever stream at EMS, which is I think deleted because I was embarrassed about it. Uh, but my first ever stream, I was playing like a pretty mellow, like a really melodic, like ambient-ish, like cool thing that was just like pretty mellow, chill. And everyone listening to it thought I was like the hardest of core like metal artists or something, because the whole thing was like
Blown out.
just it was just nonstop clips, like noise artist clipping, just
Mm-hmm.
like that kind of stuff. Very, very different feel than what I was going for.
And you'll get a lot of like compliments. Like I one of my least favorite streams, people like were like, oh, I really like that. It was really kind of like in your face aggressive. And I was like, yeah, but the problem was that was like supposed to be a really kind of chill moment.
Yeah.
That's great that
Yeah.
you loved it that way. I mean, of course you have to separate that, right? And I get that. But as far as what I was trying to give you, was
Yeah, like I appreciate that. Like there
yeah.
was so much support, and I was like, "Oh, cool! They like what I'm making. Cool, I'm gonna make more of this." And then like I listened to it right after, and I was like, "Oh."
And because that has nothing to do with, but it's because that has nothing to do with you. It's like I don't feel bad about it. It's not like if I feel it doesn't sound good, it's not like, oh, I did a bad job. I think no, that's actually the problem. I think I was very happy with it, and that it didn't translate into the listener. And even if it sounded good, like even if it sounds good, I get that. It's like, but I always like it when I don't want to be too strict on this, because I think there's a lot of really great exceptions. I think that what I want to give out there, I'm always happy when I succeed at that, because it's like an intentionality thing. It's like, can I execute the thing that I want to do?
Right.
And especially when I've practiced a long time and I really want to like, oh, I think people will like this and stuff like that. So this VST knowledge, like I said, I might put out a video about it, because it's just something that I think might just kind of short circuit some people's brains for a second, like it did mine. And people don't want to ask.
Like just to, because we have some audience here that might know, but like there's some VSTs that, like, not even VSTs, just like functions that come to mind that I really like. My audio is coming from the ATEM Mini up there because the video is going through there too. And the software it comes with does have some like EQ and like compression and limiting and stuff like that. So I'm essentially using it for what you would use a VST for in OBS. But one of the things I like the most that you said you didn't have was a limiter. I love setting the limiter to just a little bit before the threshold so that, should I get a little carried away on the resonance or something, like it doesn't go into clipping territory. It doesn't like hurt people's ears, like that kind of stuff. So like if you know a good like VST limiter free, like hit us up.
Yeah, so that's the one thing is I don't have a free limiter that a VST that I use. I just use it in the DAW. I just actually use the stock Apple limiter. But
Yeah.
in the I do have a really great free actually compressor, and it's an old school compressor. It models an analog compressor, but
Oh, cool.
it is actually very cool. It's I'm actually gonna look. You might have to look it up real quick because I want to kind of you can that, and then for same thing EQ. I have a similar, they're freebie and they're things that I looked out for free, and they're both great. So it's not like you go out and buy. I think oftentimes you see, sometimes you'll see a deal on Instagram or something like that because they know you're a musician, so they sell you stuff, and you see a VST and it's like was $300 now for only $99, and you're like, oh, I'm not going to pay $99. Like I feel like some people have a barrier, or I do certainly have a barrier where I just I didn't want to get into the world of VSTs because I wasn't about to start throwing money at vapor. Like I don't know, it's not real. It's not like it's not, and so I don't know. I just for me, there's a lot of rules that I made early on in my synthesis and music player, and I made those rules because I wanted to have like, okay, this, and I've thrown them out the window completely. And VSTs is one of them that I really, using VSTs that are not, why I just had, I was like, I'm not going to pay, but then I realized there's a bunch of free ones, so you might as well. But real quick, I wanted to mention, first of all, Valhalla. I don't know if you guys know Valhalla. Supermassive is a great free plugin, and Valhalla does a lot of different. So yeah, you can do reverb, you can do anything like that, but I actually use that in DAW. But as far as like stuff you might apply to OBS, there is the they're called Analog Obsession. And Analog Obsession, if you go there right now, is just a web page with a lot of amazing VSTs that are free, and the person who designs it just asks that if you want to give some money, you can. It's that kind of relationship. And there's basically he has things for sale as well, but I think they actually have they have a ton of free stuff that you can just give up. But Fiverr and it's called Buster SE. Buster SE is the compressor I use, and I think it's absolutely fantastic. I've never had a clipping issue with, or in a lot of ways, sometimes what will end up happening is you'll use a compressor that will then, when you export your file, so again, this is for DAW recording as well. When you export your file, it just sounds different than, it doesn't sound like, for whatever reason, it doesn't sound exactly like you heard it because it's going through this final compressor for whichever reason. It's not identical. And the Analog Obsession Buster SE VST, not only is it free, but it just, the fidelity or faithfulness to what you're listening to prior to export is just really, really great, which was a new thing for me. So for so long, I would record things and then cross my fingers, please have it sound the same. And that was also a gain staging problem that I had my own that I had to fix. But the compressor goes a long way for your mastering compressor, your end of chain compressor, and that's a great one to use.
That's cool. That's cool. I mean, I feel like if you're using those plugins, any and you really like them, like throw a few bucks the creators way, like that.
Yeah,
Not just
right.
you, but like people in general. Like it's easy enough to be like, oh, it's just free. But like if I use something like regularly, I'm like, okay, I can afford $5
and especially in
whatever.
music and visual production space. Like I didn't realize Blender was free. right? Or like,
Oh yeah.
or touch designer, or it's like all these people who are, and like these things are being used in like blockbuster Hollywood movies, right? Because the quality of the design of the product is so good. And what it is you have a lot of people, I mean, you would know better than most about this, but like people who just know the code, know what's, you know, what's happening on in the back end, and they start putting out products. I mean, I remember when I was younger, we had like for shareware, you know, you wanted to play Wolfenstein or whatever game like you had on a 3.5 floppy disk that you shared with your friends. It's almost like it's the same. It's like obviously open source or whatever, but like, it's the same principle. And I feel like there was this weird lull where we all went back to our you know, our sold products, our you know, our non open source kind of things. And then now I think open source, especially in visual and music production, is just blowing up because I don't know, or maybe it's not blowing up at all. In fact, it's becoming more aware of it, which is totally.
Yeah,
But
I mean it's there's a lot to that, and we can loop back around to that.
yeah,
Like that's a whole discussion.
yeah, and I would love to hear a lot of your thoughts on that for sure.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah. I just wanted to say, like, if you can't, it's like tip your bartender, right? Like,
Yeah, for sure.
kind
Oh
of
no,
a thing. Like,
absolutely.
they're making your life better. Like, throw a few bucks
And whatever it is too,
around.
it's like, I mean, the amount of money it's saving you is just, it's huge. So
Yeah, but I mean, I'm with you. I don't like, VSTs scare me because there's the things like Arturia. Like, I got the V collection back when I
oh,
was
okay.
like new at all of this. And it's amazing. Like, to be clear, like it's the best collection of VSTs I've got. But
Archery is a great
I
brand.
end up like just stuck going through like I have to hear every preset, you know, like that kind of mentality, and I don't actually like I have zero productivity. And then okay, you start getting other VSTs and like paying thousands of dollars, and like I'm still not making tracks. Like I didn't do that loud. Like I don't buy any VSTs but anymore, but um I just get like that. You know, folks is like the giant modular setups. Like mine's physically big, but like I think this like or this rack here is like one and a half of your racks, like in
Right, right,
terms of
right,
number of modules.
right, right,
Like
right, right.
like folks with just like the huge modular walls, like are amazing, but I feel like I'd run into the same problem where I just wouldn't be that productive.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah,
yeah. I don't know.
like
I mean,
the computer's endless.
exactly. Because I, in some ways, I'm a completionist, and I eventually I want to know the ins out of every little thing, and just the amount of
Exactly.
time it's going to take to do that for that is a little ambitious for little old me. So it's
Right. It's like
yeah,
if I had spent that same amount of money on like one of their scents, like I don't know, with pigments or something, right? Like that probably would have been a good one for me to just only have that and like learn the in and outs of, and I would have been like a happy camper. But like it came with like I don't know, like 20 cents and some pianos and like I, I don't have the time or intensity to like learn all of those instruments effectively. So
yeah. I
yeah.
mean, that's why
So I
like
learned none of them.
this old the Yamaha PSR 540. It has like 250 different presets and a million different pads that I always use. And there's something psychologically that happens where you scroll through in the menu and you know certain things, but then after a while, it's just like the upper numbers, the 200. Like there's just like the
Yeah.
upper numbers that it's just this kind of like kind of what does it say? Like it's I don't really understand what it is. I don't know what's there. I'm never going to know what's in those upper numbers. They're just up in the upper numbers, right? There's something when you have a module or you have like some kind of gear which has that, I'm always concerned. I mean, like
Like with 81 different functions, like the
yeah,
parasites,
yeah, but the
like
parasites, right? Then it just becomes what's it, abstract way. You know, it's like this
yeah.
abstracted. Okay, it's over there. There's 81 thing. Wonder. I don't know what 79 is more than I know what 34 is. I might know what three of them are because I use them often, but everything else just kind of becomes background. And I think that can always be a problem.
That's
Maybe.
really funny. I had both an amp and one of those like combo Boss pedal things. Probably wasn't Boss, but it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
like those that had like the amp had 100 effects in there, and like
Like the
the
spider or something
pedal
like that.
also did. And
Was it a
I
spider?
don't know. My amp was it was the B company that we shall not name.
Okay, yeah, I got it.
No, it was way back when, like, and it was used. But anyway, uh, both of those, like, I I think are identical to parasites in that, like, no human's gonna remember like what 47 is, like you scroll
Yeah,
through one at a time, strum a note, scroll another one, strum a note. You're like, maybe you note down like three of them, but like I found that to be like 99 functions per pedal or something was like too many for me. I don't know. And it's the same with like VST, like, because you're not it's not 99 effects that are static, right? Like, not, it sort of
yeah,
is like 99 presets, but you can interact with all of those.
all of
Each
them,
All of a
right?
sudden the controls
Yeah, I wanted.
change every time.
Yeah, I wanted to mention that. Like, it's not like work has 81 discrete effects. It's like as you there may be like 70, and the other ones, the rest of the last 11 are like basically like every knob has their own parameter and you can change, and it's something that you start doing it, and you're like, oh, I'll definitely come back next Saturday and perfect this, and you move
Yeah.
on, and you just never come
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
You never come back to do it. I never do. I shouldn't say you.
Yeah. And that's how I feel somewhat about like VSTs. Like, I'd rather, I know myself now, I've learned the hard way. Like, I'd rather pick up like a module that does like one thing and I can learn that. Like, that's, if I bought 100 modules at once and put them all in there, I would be ruined. But like, if I just do it one at a time, which is fine, I can learn that module. Or pedals are really like awesome because they're pretty
Straightforward,
the
and yeah.
overwhelming majority of them are like pretty singularly focused. Sure, there's like
Not anymore.
the Zoya effects and like the newer modern digital ones, but like the overwhelming majority are like distortion or reverb or whatever the thing is. So,
But yeah, this is a topic for another conversation. But like, I do want to something, like the idea that effect companies realize that there's a cap at the amount of guitarists who are using effect pedals, and now they are just effect pedals. And you see with certain content makers. Certain content makers are, whether you're playing like the trombone or the violin or the harp, it's all coming through effect pedals now, because there is an effect, and companies are wanting to reach out to these folks to try to get to really try to bolster their they're on their radar now. I think they're so focused on
to
guitars for a long
increase the
time.
number of potential customers, right? Like,
Yeah,
they've
exactly,
sort of,
exactly.
the guitar
That's why you're
market's
seeing
fairly
LFOs on these
saturated,
pedals. You're seeing LFOs
right?
on
So like,
pedals because
shout
of it.
out to like Emily the Harpist is like my favorite pedal channel. But
Yeah, for sure.
what was I going to say? Oh, I was going to ask you, what are you using? Are you interfacing your guitar pedals with your modular? Because I ran into some issues with that, and I would love some
Yeah,
tips.
I do. I usually put a compressor on when I run my modular through.
So you're
When I run
compressing
the
the modular signal down, right?
a little
And
bit,
are
a
you
little
are
bit.
you are you lowering the voltage of it or anything like that?
I mean, so with modules like that's just a volume thing, really. So like
Yeah.
the kind of so for instance, a lot of like the data corrupter or a lot of pedals, you're right to say it can have a really hot signal, okay, and it can
Yeah.
screw with stuff. So you have to be careful. Like the count to five was not meant to have a synth go through it in that
Yeah.
way. But you can just turn the volume all the way down and roll it up, and then you can get a good sound that way. I put a compressor, but I have the volume at normal volume, so that all it's doing is basically limiting in a sense, and then also you have in a similar way, because of what we were just talking about, a lot of pedals these days actually have a under the hood switch or a menu thing where you can actually switch it to incoming synth signal.
Like a line level signal.
Yeah, it's a line level
Yeah.
switch or whatever like that. And so look in the manual and you'll find them. I think you're right to say that a lot of bare bones guitar pedals can be dangerous to use with synthesizers. If not dangerous, they may just sound shitty or crappy. Like they may not.
I think like I have one that I think just stopped working briefly until I powered it down for a while, and then I gave it a rest and it worked again. But like I think at this point, like I like the pedals are not cheap. I'd rather like figure out like a nice way to do it, because I was also like I did have the volume way down, like almost all the way down as far as it can go, going into the pedal and then coming out of the pedal, and then you have to like amp it back up again. But like I was looking at like there's like intro effects and there's other modules that handle this.
If I use it, it'll be like for a reverb or something like that. I very rarely use my pedal board for my guitars, but I'll use it for my Moog, for instance. And that always, I've never had any problems with my Moog little fatty going through my pedal boards and blowing things out, really, because I always kind of run my Moog a little low anyways, as far as volume wise.
I mean, most of the pedals I've used like just work. Like the big Strymon Big Sky has, I think you don't have to do anything.
I think that they're almost made, like I said before, like I think a lot of pedal companies now, I think Strymon was ahead of the curve on this, even though they don't get the credit they should in the synthesis community. As like, I think or Eventide is a similar thing where people don't necessarily see them as synthesis reverbs or synthesis effects. They've been doing kind of interface things longer than a lot of the other folks. So I think that I also want to mention there is an actual pedal. I can't think of it now, but if you look at it, it's just a pedal you have at the beginning of your chain, and it is literally a switch that will go between line level and it's like you can automatically have all your synthesizers for that. And I'm not sure how much that costs. That would be a good investment for me. I haven't made that.
Right. And that's the thing. I was looking at, there's a few devices that do this. I didn't want something in the rack because it's unlikely I'm going to bring like my guitar and all my pedals and my rack to like a different venue. Right.
Injector. Go on.
Right. Injector is one of the ones that like lives in the rack.
Yeah.
But there's one, I think Board Brain Inter Effects 2 is like this weird diamond shaped thing. That lets you do a couple of things all at once. Like it has, I think three sets. So on each set, you can essentially go from guitar levels to Eurorack levels. You can go, you flip a switch, it goes the other way around. And there's 3 sets of those. So it's essentially like having 3 little pedals. But that means that like I can send my guitar through the Eurorack and back. I can send my Eurorack, this is more what I want to do, is send my Eurorack through my guitar pedals and back. That kind of stuff.
Like a send kind of thing, yeah.
Yeah. And that really appeals to me because then I could just like leave it here. But I never do this because I'm not very confident in my guitar playing like I am my synth stuff. But like I like playing, like sending my guitar through my synth stuff, and that's actually the easier of the two for me to do because like I've got like an ears and it's really easy to bring the gain up. But I find it harder to go the other way around. So it'd be nice to have essentially like a nice little send.
I think that the Injector has a send and return in it as well. Yep. And for those of you who don't know, was it Board Brain? Like I wasn't on their radar at all until recently. I was working with a friend to make a rack, and they got a bunch of Board Brain modules, and I had completely knew it. Blew my mind how good it sounds. I feel like almost it has a little bit of the same thing with endorphins, where it kind of brings things down a little bit. But as far as like the quality, everything about it, I think again they're also on kind of ahead of the curve, maybe too ahead of the curve, but ahead of the curve on the understanding that guitarists and synthesizers guitarists are going to start plugging their guitars into synthesizers. But this is something that is in the future and will be happening more and more. And I think they've really kind of got the infrastructure for it, and I think they've done a good job. I'm wondering to see how it happens in the next couple of years, what more they do. But Board Brain, if you are a person who puts electric or acoustic instruments and you want to run it through your synth, I really would suggest investigating that company.
Yeah, they look really good. I have to like curb my gas looking at that stuff, because holidays are coming up. So
That's right.
yeah. Anyway, does anyone else have any questions? We've gone a little bit long. We've covered uh, every Frederick Foxtrot module, every guitar
Yeah,
pedal, every VST.
we were comprehensive. Comprehensive. I apologize,
What
but yeah.
do we didn't cover the actual like uh, I want to say physical instruments, but I don't know the better word. Like, what guitars
Oh,
and stuff do you use? Like,
I bought this in 1994. It is an
oh
Ibanez.
yeah,
It is a 1983 Ibanez Rose Star Tooth, a Floyd Rose, which I'm not a thrasher at all. But I play with a metal guitar because of the action, and I really ride the Floyd Rose for, like a Nels Klein kind of guitar. He does a lot of effects and weird stuff, and so yeah, Ibanez Roadstar 2, 1983, bought it in 94. It's my first guitar I ever bought, and I still use it today. I've had it repaired like twice, and I love it. So
man, I should have gone. Like, I wish I could have gone that way. My first guitar was a Squire Stratocaster, which came with it was like the, I don't know, the $100 bundle. So it was like a guitar
yeah,
plus
yeah,
the
amp
little
and
amp and some cables and a little case for $100. And this wasn't in like 1970 or anything where that would make sense. Like, this is like in in the early thousands or something. Like, I don't understand. But the guitar itself was like pretty crappy, like objectively. Like, fret buzz out of the box. Like, if I shredded too hard, I didn't know, like, YouTube wasn't like a huge thing, so I didn't like know how
yeah,
to
yeah.
fix these things, or that I could
YouTube
fix
changed
these things.
everything. Yeah,
It would
yeah,
slice my hand because the frets would stick out a little bit because it was probably
yeah,
just
yeah.
too
I remember
dry
that.
up here. Like,
That's an extra 20
things
bucks
like that.
if you want them polished. You have to pay for that.
But I loved that thing. I ended up trading it though because I just dropped playing guitar for like a decade. So
Yeah.
still
This
have
is
the
my.
amp. I don't know why.
So this is
Yeah.
okay, and I wanted to like. So I wanted to say that I went to a garage sale years and years ago, and then I, with the intention of bypassing the speaker and being, it's not circumvent in any way, it's just a bypass.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I run this through a compressor and then into my pedal board as well. And then of course Simon the Magpie, which OK House Cat, I think first kind of did it, and then Simon the Magpie did it after OK House Cat did it, and then I was, it was sitting there and I'm looking at it and I felt so betrayed that I hadn't, like, after I got off my butt and done it, I was like, they beat me to it. I was like, I feel like it was my idea, but like, of course, as I mentioned, like in my video, I was like, it's like, I was like, I'm glad he did.
It's like, oh, I had the idea for Facebook.
Yeah, right. No, but no, that's what I'm not trying to say. It's like, I literally am bypassing. They're like doing actual work underneath that, and so it's like, I'm more, yeah, but it definitely, I felt at once like late to game and validated at the same time. It was like a weird combination feeling.
That's cool. Yeah, I've been there. I will say that now that they've done those, and now that you've gotten your feet wet with some circuit bending stuff, aka the was it the quantized octopus work you've
Yeah,
done? I think you should watch their videos, crack that thing open, and see if it's worth circuit bending.
I'm sure. No, it's yeah, it is. It definitely is. And not only that, they're like $20, and they're still one of the best. It's my, oddly enough, that video is which is like one of my worst videos. It's like 6,000 views right now. it's like which, by the way, it's a little self promotion. Like, I have a YouTube channel where I kind of I toy with stuff and put out songs and stuff like that. So you can see a lot more of what I have going on Frederick Foxtrot and YouTube. So, but anyways,
cool.
That pretty much does it.
Yeah, follow Frederick Foxtrot on YouTube. Highly recommend. And subscribe and like and all those things, I guess. I don't know what else. I think I'm good. I don't have anything else to talk about today, really.
No,
I mean,
I think, well, I mean,
Yeah,
I
we
can
could talk
always
all day.
talk. I can talk forever. So it's not that, but I think we've covered what we sought to cover, and we can another day if you need to cover more. So
Yeah. I'm realizing now that we've talked about guitar stuff that I need an A/B switch and the inter effects module or something like that.
yeah,
Anyway, all right. Thank you everybody for watching. I did make a really short little intro that I didn't play because like Egon played a really nice stream, so I didn't feel the need to. But I'll play us out. Let me do all the switchy stuff. Let's see here.
awesome. Thanks so much.
Settings. Thank you for being on. It was really good. Let's see. That should be a camera up the. That's at the top of my hat. Looks like. I'll switch that too, and you won't be able to hear me talk. But have a good rest of your day, y'all. Let's